Months ago, Raptors fans were left absolutely shocked when Toronto decided to actually keep Kyle Lowry beyond the trade deadline, but now we finally have the answer to why that is the case as Kyle Lowry reveals everything, and honestly, it's safe to say I'm a little bit shocked. Let's get into it. Welcome NBA and Raptors fans to Amateur Hour Sports. This is the channel where you get NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors at least 4 days a week. That is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. This is your Wednesday episode. We're talking about Kyle Lowry revealing why he wasn't traded at the trade deadline. So if you like what we see from today's video and you want more of myself talking about the NBA and the Raptors and videos and content just like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below to show your support to the channel on our road to 6,000 subscribers. We are so close to that 6K mark. Please help the channel get there. You can also check out all of the other platforms that we post content on, 2 other YouTube channels, as well as a live stream service in the link in the description. But let's get down to business for today, because Kyle Lowry, a lot to talk about with this player. We talk about him so much on the channel because we love Kyle Lowry. I love Kyle Lowry. He's my favorite basketball player that I've ever seen. It's hard for him not to be your favorite player if you are a Toronto Raptors fan. This is Mr. Toronto Raptors, if we could give that name to anybody. If anybody deserves to have their jersey retired in Toronto, it is Kyle Lowry. And then there's nobody else who deserves a statue out front of Scotiabank Arena than Kyle Lowry. And I'm sure he's going to get one day, future Hall of Famer most likely. But at the trade deadline, every sign pointed towards Kyle Lowry leaving the team. In fact, Kyle Lowry himself almost seemed sure that he was going to be traded at the deadline, because after his final game with the Raptors against the Denver Nuggets in a resounding blowout victory that was very fun to watch amidst an awful month of March where that was our only victory in the month, Kyle Lowry was seen crying as he was walking back to the locker room, which, if there was any sort of doubt from Raptors fans that this was going to be Kyle Lowry's game, well, Kyle Lowry himself cemented that because he was crying. He was sad to leave the team, but, there was other things that he had to take care of. Obviously, he still wants to be a champion again, and the Raptors, they were in the midst of a really bad season. They were en route to tanking, and it wasn't a good situation for Kyle Lowry. So I could completely understand why Kyle Lowry wanted to leave, and I could completely understand why the Toronto Raptors wanted to trade Kyle Lowry, because for Kyle Lowry, he's getting older, and he wants to be a winner again. The Raptors weren't in that best situation. They're in a little bit of a rebuild mode. So why not move on from Kyle Lowry? Because there was significant interest from the Lakers, from the Heat, and from the 76ers, and pick up some young pieces in return to just satisfy the needs of the team. And the Raptors were building for the future. Obviously, we would have loved to have kept Kyle Lowry, but in reality, I think for the betterment of the team, a trade was necessary in that situation. But as trade deadline rolls through, we are sitting in anticipation. We find out Norman Powell's getting traded. We find out Matt Thomas and Terrence Davis got traded for second-round picks, which opened up roster spots for a possible Kyle Lowry trade, which, if there was any doubt at that point, any doubt still remaining about that situation, once we freed up roster spots, it was over for me. I'm like, okay, absolutely, this guy's gone. We're going to trade him. And then the deadline hits. But trades can still be processed for a little bit more time. Some other trades go through past the deadline time, and we're still waiting when all of a sudden we find out, well, hang on. Kyle Lowry is actually not getting traded, and he's going to remain a Raptor. And I remember at the time, I was a little bit kind of surprised and shocked. I was like, well, why? We don't need him anymore. And there was interest from other teams. Apparently, the interest wasn't that good. The Lakers weren't real suitors for Kyle Lowry at any given point. But the 76ers and the Miami Heat were really pursuing this player. And given the way they played in the playoffs, they could have used a player like Kyle Lowry, because the 76ers go down in the second round to the Atlanta Hawks in a big upset, and the Miami Heat go down basically without a whimper in the first round to the Milwaukee Bucks. So both teams really could have used Kyle Lowry. But recently, Kyle Lowry got on the CJ McCollum podcast and was talking about a lot of the behind-the-scenes thing. And for a player in the Raptors organization, it's usually a very tight-knit organization. But Kyle Lowry doesn't play for the Raptors anymore. So maybe his move to the Miami Heat now has allowed him to kind of speak out on these sort of things, because you usually hear nothing from within the Toronto Raptors camp. But Kyle Lowry, as I mentioned, it has moved on to the Miami Heat at this point. And honestly, I think it's all worked out for the best in this scenario. I think having Kyle Lowry for the rest of the season prepared Raptors fans for him leaving, truly prepared us for him leaving. And I feel like we got a really good return back. As far as sign and trades go, they typically are not fair. When the Philadelphia 76ers signed and traded Jimmy Butler to the Miami Heat, they got Josh Richardson in return. So the fact that we got Precious Achiuwa, a very promising young player with loads of potential, and Goran Dragic, who we can flip to another team and possibly bring in some more young assets, I thought that was a great return. But on the podcast, Kyle Lowry discussed many things. He discussed Kawhi Leonard as well. He talked about a little bit, maybe Kawhi Leonard was a little bit selfish, but the way Kawhi Leonard was playing, I can understand why the guy was selfish. But what really intrigued me was when he revealed why he wasn't traded. There was interest, like I said, from the 76ers and from the Heat, but they weren't the best returns. But ultimately, the front office was prepared to let Kyle Lowry go at the deadline in fears probably of him leaving for nothing in this offseason. We got lucky and we managed to sign and trade him, but that wasn't always a guarantee. But at the deadline, the management went up to Kyle Lowry and basically let him choose where he wanted to play. Do you want to go to Philly or do you want to go to Miami? And Kyle Lowry came up with this shocking decision and he said he wanted to go nowhere. He wanted to stay with the Toronto Raptors. And after staying, he played in 9 more games for the rest of the season, which confused me even more because I was like, well, if you're going to keep him, then play him. Why would you keep him beyond the deadline just to not play him and risk losing him for nothing? But it ultimately came down to Kyle Lowry's decision. I really liked that the front office let Kyle Lowry's opinion on the situation take precedent to their own because they were underwhelming offers and maybe that had something to play with it. If the offers were really good, the front office might have said, okay, Kyle, unfortunately, we're just going to have to send you here. We hope you're okay with that. But Kyle Lowry had the decision to make and decided that he wanted to stay with the Raptors. And that is why he was not traded at the deadline. The reason he wanted to stay was because the guys needed him. The Raptors were struggling. They were amidst one of the worst months in their history. They only won 1 game in the months of March, if you guys can recall to that far back. I mean, we've moved well beyond that at this point. But if you remember that month of March, it was an absolutely torrid time to be a Raptors fan. And the young guys that Kyle Lowry had seen grown maybe needed him there. Fred VanVleet needed him. Maybe OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam needed him. And for a little bit of time, maybe he thought about Norman Powell, who was traded on trade deadline day. But Kyle Lowry assessed that he didn't want to give up on his guys like that. He didn't want to jump ship just because it got tough. The Raptors have had it really good, like really, really good, especially by Toronto sports standards for the last decade. And Kyle Lowry didn't want to jump ship at the first sign of, okay, maybe things aren't going to work out. And he made the decision that he wanted to stay with the team. This left, again, a lot of shock from Raptors fans. A lot of people were happy. A lot of people, like myself, reacted as if we were very upset. And I was upset at the time because you have to trade him at that point. Maybe you're just thinking the trade offers just really weren't good enough, and we will never really know what the offer was for Kyle Lowry. Was it really that bad? The Raptors just simply could not trade him to Miami. They could not trade him to Philly because evidently the Heat and the Sixers could have really used Kyle Lowry for a playoff run. And the Miami Heat, recognizing that, have definitely paid up to get him right now. Maybe the Raptors were just really wanting Tyler Hero, but I think they got their guy in Precious Achiuwa that they've wanted for a long time. They wanted him in that 2020 NBA entry draft, but he just didn't quite fall to them. So they're happy to have him on the team now. I'm happy with the way the trade went. As far as Goran Dragic goes, sure, maybe it hasn't been the best of starts for his life in Toronto, but I still think there is going to be people who are wanting him on their team, like the Dallas Mavericks, who are prepared to make some sort of trade to bring him in. Just something. Precious Achiuwa, I think, is a good return, but getting something out of Goran Dragic would make that a really good return. And I think we're going to be looking back on this situation in a few years like it went the best possible way it could, because we as Raptors fans had the complete understanding that it was time to move on from Kyle Lowry. We understood that we needed to move on to a younger team. Kyle Lowry himself decided that he needed to move on to a team that could be a contender, and the front office were in the same boat as everybody else. So to get in the young piece like Precious Achiuwa and possibly more, to get Kyle Lowry to a destination where he can be that sort of dark horse contender with that really stingy Miami Heat team, to get him to that situation where he wanted to be. You know, he wanted to be in Florida still. He wanted to be in Miami, and he wanted to be playing with Jimmy Butler, one of his best friends. I believe either Jimmy or Kyle are the godfather of the others' kids. I don't know which way it works, but regardless, very good friends. Very good situation for Kyle Lowry. And I think the Raptors are in a better situation because of it. We had the new guard coming in. Fred VanVleet is going to run this offense. OG Anunoby is continuing to ascend as an NBA player. Pascal Siakam is in for a bounce-back season. Malachi Flynn is now in this position where he's enabled to make the next step in his NBA career. We've brought in Scottie Barnes, who we are relying heavily on him for the future aspirations of the franchise, and it was just a necessary thing to happen. It was sad. I really was sad to see him go, but ultimately, we're happy about what happened. We celebrate the moments Kyle Lowry had, especially that 2019 NBA championship, and people continue to talk about Kyle Lowry as if he's washed, and it's really hurting me to see Miami Heat fans calling out Kyle Lowry as if he's washed, because even last season, Kyle Lowry, who wasn't playing the most amount of games, and when he was playing for a team that probably wanted to lose more than they wanted to win, but still put up a very good stat line. I mean, he put up 17, 7, and 5 despite being on a team that was trying to tank. His efficiency as a point guard, you can live with these numbers, especially that three-point percentage. Kyle Lowry had a great season by his standards, and honestly, if the Raptors were in a playoff position, he probably would have been an all-star for the 7th year in a row. This was the first time in 6 years that Kyle Lowry had not been an all-star last season. So there's still a lot Kyle Lowry can offer in the NBA. I'm excited to see the way he can progress with another team. Hopefully not too much, because I don't want the Miami Heat to beat down the Raptors in any of the games. But ultimately, as far as the situation went, it went as best as it could. The Raptors got their time to say goodbye to the greatest player in franchise history. Kyle Lowry got his time to say goodbye to the players that maybe needed him a little bit more. And ultimately, we got a great return for it. But the way it was revealed, the way it all went down, is quite surprising to me, and let me know what you guys think about that. Were you surprised to hear that Kyle Lowry himself was the decision maker in not getting traded and wanting to stay with the Raptors? Let me hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. So that wraps up for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are still here, be sure to hit that like button. If you did enjoy, it really goes a long way to helping us reach some new viewers to the channel. You can also subscribe to this channel on our road to 6,000 subscribers, and it would really mean a lot if you helped us get there. Let's try to get there today. Other links around me that you can check out: we have our Twitch stream clips channel, the best highlights from our Twitch streams. You can also check out Amateur TV, our vlog channel, and also where we interview Raptors fans downtown. We're going to be starting that very soon, but already a couple of vlogs out on the channel. Some other videos that you may enjoy are here as well, but always remember, at the end of the day, believe what I say. If you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.